Welcome to this episode of Everything iPad. My name is Matt, and this show is for anyone who's interested in using an iPad, whether you are a seasoned professional or a complete beginner, or like me, just something in between. Hopefully, this show has something for you. And on today's show, we're going to be talking about iPadOS 17, which was announced a couple of weeks ago at WWDC. And there's some exciting features coming up. It's a solid set of updates, nothing too adventurous. But I'm going to be looking at some of those features coming up that's going to be released, I think, usually in September, which I'm looking forward to. And we're going to be talking about some of the features, and I'll be giving my reaction to some of the new announcements that have been made. I just want to say before we start, thank you to everyone who watched and commented and liked the last show all about Logic Pro. It was really cool to see. I got some useful feedback. A shout out to Mark, who gave me some advice on how to better use the mixer. There was one button which I'd missed. It's always typical. And thank you, Mark, for pointing me in the right direction there. And thanks to everyone who tuned in. It was really nice to make that show. I hope you enjoyed it. And as I said, today we're talking about iPadOS 17. And I think in the run-up to WWDC, we knew that it wasn't going to be a massive year for the iPad. We knew that it was all about the headset, the Apple Vision Pro, and the rumour mill suggested we were just going to get a set of nice-to-have features. And I think nice-to-have features is a really good summary of what we'll be getting on the next version of iPadOS. Let's talk about the iPads that are not going to support iPadOS coming up. There are two. It's the first gen iPad Pro and the 5th gen iPad. They have been dropped when we compare that to iPadOS 16. So some of the older iPads, they are several years old now. So I think if you've got a newer iPad, something you've bought in the last few years, is definitely going to run this, and you're going to benefit from some of the cool new features. So let's jump straight in to talk about one of the first things that's going to be coming up, which is new lock screens. Yeah, I think this is kind of cool. We're getting lock screens just like we do on the iPhone. So the way you'll be able to change the lock screen is very similar to iOS. And one of the things we get is widgets. And the widget placement on iPadOS is slightly different to the iPhone. On the iPhone, they're centered underneath the clock on the phone. And on the iPad, they're down to one side. They're down on the left-hand side, which has a couple of really good benefits, I think. The first of which is you can have more widgets. I like widgets on the iPhone. I'm frustrated you're limited to the sort of, or it's a maximum of 4 of the square widgets you can have. That's a little bit limiting. I would like a few more, but obviously you can't really fit them on a phone. But I have made use of the iPad's larger screen to fit in more. Now I've got one of, if you're watching the video version of this podcast, you'll be able to see on my screen that I've got one of the promo images supplied by Apple for these new lock screens. And you can see they've introduced a new widget size. So at the moment on iOS, you've got the single square or you've got a double width one. They've got one which is essentially the size of, it's a square shape, the size of 4 square ones. We can see a couple of instances here. They've got a clocks widget, which has 4 clocks, and the reminders widget. Now, that's actually really cool. This is something I would use a lot. I'm a heavy user of the reminders app, and they have a really good reminders widget on the home screen. And yeah, I think it's good. I think that for a very long time, Apple has really underused the screen real estate of the iPad. There's a lot of just, in my opinion, wasted space. Doesn't mean we want to fill it with stuff all the time, but I think it's good to have that option of having the widgets there. In addition to the new lock screens, the widgets, we also have new wallpapers. We got a set of cool new wallpapers, including the planets, which look really cool. And it will do the kind of weird thing, not the weird thing, but the cool thing, where the time will slightly hide behind an image, which I think is, yeah, it looks quite fancy, doesn't it? Really. Yeah, so I think that looks really good, and it'll also support live photos. I don't take many live photos, but if you take live photos and you set one up as your lock screen wallpaper, what you'll have is when you wake, you tap to wake the screen, you'll see the first second or two of that live photo move, so it comes alive. Which again, I think that's sort of a kind of a nice thing to have. whilst we're talking about the lock screen, what we also have is support for live activities. Live activities we got on iOS 16 last year. It's coming to iPadOS 17, and I find live activities quite useful. I think I use it for um, Carrot Weather, Fantastical, Deliveroo. I've just discovered this evening actually. Deliveroo has a widget, and it will give you a live activities thing, and it will give you an update or when the rider is, how far that your food is away from you, which is fine. Um, I'm after actually. What tell you what? If anyone's watching and you want to help me out, I'm looking for a really good Premier League football app that will support the live activities, so the sports scores come up on my phone. If anyone knows any apps that support that, do let me know in the comments. I'd be super grateful if you could do that. But yeah, live activities coming to the lock screen of the iPad. And I suppose I've got one question about this, and that would be how live activities are shared between different devices. And what I mean by this is going to be the first time that we have multiple different devices to support live activities. My question, I suppose, doesn't apply to all live activities, but say something like a timer. I want to know that if I set a timer on my iPhone and you get a live activity for that on your iPhone, will that live activity also appear on the iPad? I don't have the beta version installed of iPadOS 17 and iOS 17 because I only own one iPhone and one iPad. But I'm super interested. If you are running the developer or the beta versions of this, can you let me know what happens? I'd be really curious because it would be quite a useful thing to have. We have handoff and that sort of thing, but I would like to be able to, have a timer going. But if I walk past my iPad, I can see the live activity there as well. I don't know. I think that would be something that's quite useful. Maybe it's just me. Next up, we have the Health app. The Health app I use quite a lot on my phone. I mainly use it for sleep tracking. I wear an Apple Watch to sleep. I like to see how much sleep I didn't get during the night. That's kind of interesting. And for the Health app, it's coming to the iPad. I think it's good. I think the implementation of it is good, and they've taken the design language. When we look at the I can't even say it. When we look at the promo images of the Health app on the iPad, it takes the design language from a lot of their other apps, like the Photos app, where we have a left column with all the subcategories, and we have the main pane on the right-hand side, which will display the information. And I actually find this look of it, actually to be quicker. I get a feeling using the Health app on the iPad, it's going to be quicker. I feel like it's a bit, when you're using your iPhone, your menu diving a bit because you can't see everything at once. So just having that left menu and then the main bit, I just feel like I can get to the information I want a lot quicker. And yeah, I mean, it's not a particularly exciting update as part of this, but as we said before, it's a nice feature to have. And while we're talking about health, they've introduced this new Vision Health feature, and this is not just an iPad thing. This is going to be coming to the iPhone as well, and it's something you can optionally set up. And it might be good if you set up devices for like children or something like that. And what it will do is it will, if it notices that you're holding your device too close for too long, a full screen warning will come up telling you to hold the device a bit further away. I think it says about a foot. So if it's within a foot, and it notices you're doing that, it'll be like, whoa, move it back, give your eyes a break. I'm absolutely not going to be turning that feature on. That's just me, but I'm definitely not going to be doing that. Next up on our discussion, we have Stage Manager improvements. This wasn't something that was discussed by Apple really during WWDC, but some notable people on Twitter and Mastodon, if you're on Mastodon, I use that too, have said that they really like using the updated version of Stage Manager on the iPad. And I think the problems, I mean, look, Stage Manager was iPadOS 16's biggest flaw last year. It was just buggy, it was messy, it was really limiting. And while the latest version doesn't give you the same fluidity that you might get on a Mac in terms of having multiple windows. There's more flexibility in this approach. And what I mean by that is a bit more flexibility on the number of windows, the way windows overlap, the sizes. Um, on the original implementation of Stage Manager, things would snap into place, sizes would snap, or windows would snap quite rigidly, and you didn't have as much freedom. Now, as I said, I want to stress you don't get as much freedom as you would do if you're using a Mac, but it is better. It's a better implementation. And people like Chris Lawley, lots of people who into iPads go to his channel. He has a great YouTube channel. He's been really digging it. Some people from 9 to 5 Mac and Mac Rumors and so on have been commenting and saying it is definitely improved a lot. So this is something that I'm beginning really excited to try. I do use Stage Manager, but I tend to use Stage Manager when I've got my iPad connected to a secondary display. That's when I tend to use it the most. I actually prefer to use the original sort of multitasking style when I'm using, my iPad in handheld mode, separate mode, touch mode. I feel like Stage Manager works slightly better if you're using a trackpad or a mouse or something like that. But that flexibility, I think, is really important, and it sounds like they've listened. They've made some really good updates to that. So much welcome. Really looking forward to trying that. Another thing I'm really looking forward to trying is new support for external cameras. Now, when this was discussed at WWDC, they talked about being able to hook up your iPads to an external display that has a built-in webcam and being able to use the built-in webcam to your external display. And they used their expensive studio display, get my words right, as an example of that. But what we are finding out through people using developer versions is that this actually is the support for this is wider. You can use USB-C webcams and other cameras as well. People have tried their mirrorless cameras, for example, and someone used the Elgato Cam Link. Apparently that works. I'm really hoping that slightly more professional devices are supported as well. I have a Blackmagic A10 Mini here that I use. I've only got one camera angle on the go, but sometimes I live stream and I have multiple camera angles going on, and I use my switcher here to switch between 4 different cameras. I'm hoping something like that will be supported. I'm hearing the support for USB cameras is only inside FaceTime at the moment. Presumably that's going to be widened to other apps like Microsoft Teams and Zoom. What I'm hoping for, and this is outside of Apple's control, but I use a piece of software on the Mac called Ecamm Live. That's what I use to record this video. This is what I use to use to live stream. It would be amazing. It would be amazing if Ecamm Live came to the iPad. Please. It would be great. I mean, being able to live stream for an iPad would be, pretty much a game changer for someone who, like me, who likes to have a real simple recording workflow when I'm making videos for this channel. I still have to use my Mac to be able to do some of these things and be able to record on an iPad using multiple cameras and using my A10 Mini. That would be a game changer. But even if you're not like me and you just use FaceTime or Zoom or whatever, I think having external camera support is really important, because the problem is when you've got an iPad, is the position of the camera built into the iPad. At the moment, my iPad is low down. It's looking up at me, just looking up at my nose, and it's off to the side. It's not at the top of the device. It's off at the side. So the positioning of where your eyes look is really quite awkward. And actually, I'd like to have my iPad on my desk, but if I could have a camera up higher or off to the side, where I look a little bit better, I could choose a more flattering angle for my FaceTime calls. And I think, even from a thing like that, that would be really useful. I'm not going to lie, we could have done with this feature 3 years ago during this little lockdown thing we had. It would be it would be really useful back then, I think, Apple, but at least we're getting it. And yeah, I think that's something that's going to be really cool. Now we're going to start exploring features that are coming to the iPad, but are also going to be coming to the other operating systems like iOS and macOS. This is one that I'm really interested in. We have something called Safari Profiles. Safari Profiles is something where you can have grouped tabs, favorites, histories, and they can be categorized. And you can switch between your categories. So what this looks like, and if you're watching this, you'll be able to see on the Apple's promo images for this. At the top of Safari, to the left of the address bar and the back and forward buttons, you have this icon and a bit of text. And it's called Home, or it's called School, or it's called Work, or it's called whatever you want it to be. And what you can do is you can set up custom profiles. And when you switch between the profiles, it will show you a different set of tabs you've got open. Now, this is something that's really interesting for me because I use my iPad across all the different things that I do. So I use it for my day job, I use it for my work stuff here, and I also use it on a personal level. Now, if I'm in my day job, I don't want to have my Safari tabs open. I don't really see the stuff I've got related to, I don't know, DIY or gardening. And when I'm at home, I don't want to be reminded I have a day job by seeing all the tabs that are related to work. The way I get around this at the moment, and it sounds really stupid, is that I use Safari for my personal use. I use Chrome for the tech channel and the stuff I have here. And then I use Microsoft Edge for my day job, which feels a bit overkill, but I just, for some reason in my head, I like to have my separate tabs and histories and my favorites and all that just in separate places. So I think that having Safari profiles will go a long way to negating that need I have to keep things in separate browsers. So what I can do is when I get home, I can switch to the home mode on Safari, and it will just show me the tabs that are related to what I'm doing at home. And if I'm doing my tech channel stuff, then I can switch to that whenever I like. I'll be interested to know if Safari profiles are going to be linked to the focus modes as well, because that could be something quite useful. Could I have a Safari profile switch when my iPad knows that I'm at work, and then I don't have to manually switch to that? I don't know if that's a feature. If it's not, I hope it's something they bring in, because that sense of automation, that seamless approach is something really useful. I already do it with my iPhone in terms of when I get to work, my main screen changes. It goes into a focus mode related to my day job where most of my other apps are hidden. It's just got work stuff on it. And then that home screen disappears the moment I leave. And having that linked to Safari profiles, I think it's going to be really good. So I love this feature. I think it's going to be really, really good, really useful. A couple of other features coming to Safari, which I think are quite interesting. One is we've got, when we have private browsing windows, they're now protected or locked behind Touch ID or Face ID. Nice to have feature, an extra bit of security. If I've got private tabs open, I tend to close them myself, to be honest. But I think that just that extra layer of protection will feel very good. It will feel very comforting. So that's, again, a nice to have feature, as we discussed before. Another thing coming is Autofill. It relates to Autofill. Verification codes through email. Most verification codes I get, I don't use a password manager. I tend to use Safari's built-in password manager because I only have Apple products, so it works for me. And I've used third-party password managers, but it just feels really clunky. So in terms of autofill, some of those verification codes come through Safari. Sometimes I get them text to me, and when they come through text, Safari is really good at recognizing I've received a text, and I don't even have to open the messages app. I can just input it straight away. But now, if we receive a verification code over email, Safari will know that it's from that email and pick it up and input it into the field that you need to. And I think it even archives or deletes the email for you just to save a bit of time. So nice to have feature, not exciting in the slightest, but it's something that's really good. I don't think I have many email verification codes coming. I think Adobe, for some reason, sends me an email. I don't know why I've got it set like that. Maybe I should change it. But anyway, nice to have. While we're on the topic of passwords, they are allowing password sharing. So this is really good that if you have particular accounts you share with a housemate or a partner. I have some passwords related to utilities accounts, like water and electricity and things like that. So being able to have shared passwords is really good. Apparently, if one person updates the password on the account, it'll update for your account as well, which is really good for things like, I don't know, when my wife changes the password to our shared email address, and I still don't know what it is. So there we go. Yeah, that's gonna be a really, really useful feature. While we're on the subject of things like autofill, they're doing some updates to the way we work with PDF documents. So now, when we have a PDF document to fill out on the iPad, Autofill will work on that. It will recognize what the fields are, what it says. I guess it uses machine learning um, somehow to recognize what the fields are, and you can really quickly fill in PDF forms and documents, which is really, really good. While on the subject of PDF documents, they can be, when they're imported into Notes, you can now annotate them. I didn't know you couldn't do that before. I thought you could annotate PDF documents inside Notes. Apparently, you couldn't. Now you can. So your PDF documents and scans can be annotated inside Notes. Who knew? Here's another one I like. This is one I really like for one particular widget. So we've got interactive widgets now that we're bringing in. And this is something that's going to be on iPadOS and iOS, and you can interact with the widgets. Now, at the moment, when you touch a widget, it will usually just open up the app, or sometimes it's a little bit more sophisticated. So if we've got the Apple Music widget open and I tap on an album, we'll open that album. But you can't do much more than that. But now with the interactive widgets, if you've got Apple Music, you tap the play button, it'll start playing the music. I don't need to open up the app, which is really good. One area that I'm really looking forward to is reminders. I'm a big reminders user. In fact, I might do an episode on how I use the reminders app, because I've got some really good tips and tricks and things that I like to do. If you're interested in an episode on how I use the reminders app, do let me know. Do let me know in the comments. But one thing you can do is, when you've got a reminders widget on your device, you can actually tick off tasks in the widget instead of having to open the app. I think that's wicked. I think that's great, because that's going to be a massive time saver in terms of getting things done. I'm big on productivity on the iPad and my digital devices, and that's going to be really, really cool for me. I think it'll work on other apps like the Home app, if you've got Home app widgets. In fact, I don't think Home app widgets exist yet, but they are coming. They are coming to iPadOS 17, so you'll be able to turn off the lights without actually having to open the app. So that makes it a bit quicker. I like that. I think that's going to be a really useful feature to have. Next up, we have some updates to FaceTime. I'm not a massive FaceTime user. I use it for family members and things like that, but I don't use it in a work scenario. I tend to use things like Zoom. But I think some of these features are going to be coming to other apps like Zoom and Microsoft Teams. One thing that isn't going to be coming is this one. And I suspect Android users are going to be like, this is nothing special. You could do this for ages. But inside FaceTime, sorry, I don't know why that was an impression of an Android user, is this happens sometimes. Not that I'm unpopular with my own family or anything, because I'm not. But sometimes when I do a FaceTime video call or a FaceTime call and the other person doesn't pick up. So what it will enable you to do is to leave a voice or video message if the person doesn't pick up. So that'd be really useful. I think a question I have related to this is, do both people need iPadOS 17? Because if I've got a family member with an older iPad and I dial them on FaceTime and I can't get through, can I still leave that person a message even though they've got an older iPad? Not sure. Be really interested to know. If anyone's using iPadOS 17 is able to test it, let me know. I think that's going to be, quite interesting. And if it doesn't work, that's going to be quite limiting as well. Another thing you can do in FaceTime, and this is coming to other apps, is you can do like gestures and stuff. If you put like your thumbs up in the meeting, it comes up with like fireworks and stuff behind you, or you can do things where emojis sort of fly by your face. Cool. I mean, not massively useful for me, but I might use it to be sarcastic in work meetings. Giving my appreciation to everyone with fireworks. Actually, I would quite look forward to that. That's going to be kind of funny. Another feature with FaceTime that's going to work is FaceTime is coming to the Apple TV, and your TV doesn't have a camera, so you can use your iPad's camera, stick it in front of your TV. You'll be able to use your iPad's camera and have FaceTime open on your TV if that's what you want to do. Again, I feel like this feature should have been here 3 years ago when we were doing all those lockdown quizzes. I remember doing something quite similar with this during lockdown when I'd use AirPlay like screen mirroring. So I'd still use like Zoom or whatever, but I'd just AirPlay it to the TV and then just have it in front, and it kind of worked fine, to be honest. I'm imagining it's using a similar technique to work here, probably a bit more seamlessly. Yeah, probably about 3 years too late on this one, but it's kind of nice to have. Next up, we have some updates on messages. Now, given how busy the keynote was at WWDC, they spent a weirdly long amount of time on the Messages app for stuff that isn't that exciting. Like, it's fine. I suppose it's tidier. So one of the things they're doing is they're bringing in this plus button. And all the things you have, like your emojis and your stickers and your GIFs, they're all going to be hidden behind this plus button. And I like this because actually I find myself tapping on the wrong thing sometimes when I want to send a GIF and I'll go to the stickers, or I want to send and actually I never want to send a sticker. Actually, that's the point. Who uses stickers? Am I the only person who doesn't? I feel a bit lost here. Am I the only person who doesn't use stickers in messages? I don't think I've ever used one. I don't know. Let me know if I'm wrong. Maybe there's something really exciting about the stickers. I don't know. I just use GIFs. The GIFs is the universal language of being humorous. Actually, I would always send a GIF. It's a sign of good humor. Oh, whatever. Anyway, so yeah, they've done a whole bunch of stuff about stickers and this plus button to find everything. Now, if you've got a group chat, there's going to be this new catch-up arrow, which is going to allow you to see what you've missed in the group chat, which is going to be useful. And another thing, which actually I really like this one, they're allowing swipe to reply. You can just swipe from left to right across the message and tap reply, and then you can go. At the moment, to reply to a message, you have to long press on the message, wait for like half a second to wait for the menu to pop up, then tap reply. I don't like that delay. That's actually quite annoying. So hopefully this method is going to be a bit quicker to replying to specific messages in a chat. So actually, I quite like that one. That's going to be really, really good. Also coming to messages is search filters. So you can search for a term, a word, a keyword, but you can also search at the same time for a particular person. So you don't have to look for all instances of that word between different people. You can look for a specific person, a particular keyword you're looking for. So I think that makes search a bit more reliable and a bit more efficient. So that's really good. Here's a feature that I didn't know wasn't here. So you can share your location via messages. I don't know, I've never done it, but I thought you could do that already. I have no idea. But there's this new messaging feature allows you to share when you're on your way home or something like that. And if you don't get home, it will alert the other person, and that other person can make a decision about trying to get in touch with you. It's a good safety feature. I think it's really good. I'm surprised it didn't exist already. It felt like something that should be here years ago. I'll be honest. Now, here is a feature that I really, really like. This is to do with audio messages. I'm not one who sends audio messages. I do receive them, however, and I'm not always in a place where I can listen to that message. So what it will do now is you have the option of having the audio message transcribed to you, which I think is wicked. I think it's great. That's going to be so handy. I don't always want to listen to audio messages, so having it, having the message app read it to me and give me the text version of it, I think that is very, very cool, very useful. I like that feature a lot. Now what we have is a few extra little features, a few little mentions that I'll give. First of all, we have some improvements to Spotlight. So I tend to open apps via Spotlight quite often. um, because I actually only have one single home screen on my iPad. I don't like to have multiple screens to swipe through and find the app. So I do tend to swipe down, search for the app, type the app that I'm looking for. I just like that method. So Spotlight's got some improvements where if you search for an app, it will give you the app, but also give you some things you could do from within the app. So, for example, if I search for photos, it will give me the Photos app. It'll also give me links to go straight into a particular part of the Photos app. For example, it will take me to my recent photos or my favorite photos or a particular album or something like that. That's really cool. It enables you to get inside a particular part of an app really quickly. I think that's great. Next, we have improvements to the keyboard. They spent a long time talking about autocorrect, which I think is fantastic. About time. Craig made a joke about ducking, and I'm sure everyone could relate to that. I have some real annoyances with the way autocorrect works. It tends to autocorrect words that I don't want. So if I am typing the word will, as in the shortened version of we will, so WE apostrophe LL, it tends to autocorrect it to well. It automatically takes the apostrophe out, or sometimes vice versa. It never gets it right. That's annoying. And like when I'm typing I'll, as in I will, the shortened version, it will drop the apostrophe and it'll make people think I'm talking about being ill. I find that really annoying. I don't like that at all. Sorry. No, bye. One thing they're doing is inline predictions. So if you type in something, this feels like it's going to work a bit similar to Google Workspace. I use Google Workspace quite a lot for my work. Sometimes when I'm typing a sentence, it'll predict the rest of that sentence or the next few words of that sentence for me. And apparently, if I hit, what do I hit? I've got it written here. If you hit a space bar, it accepts their suggestion and help you skip ahead. I think that's going to be really good, just to help you type quicker. But particularly if you are typing on the screen of the iPad, which I sometimes do. I don't like to have a keyboard case around me all the time. So sometimes I want to type on an iPad, but that is really slow. So with those inline predictions, it will just help you get the words, the sentences you want to type even quicker. So I think that's going to be a really, really good one. Next, they are dropping Hey from Hey Siri. Now, I left a gap there because when I did my test recording of this episode, it triggered like AirPod, HomePod, iPad, it all went off. So hopefully that didn't trigger any devices for you at home. They are dropping the Hey. So you can just say Siri and then it will work. Now, being not from the North American content, I feel slightly ridiculous when I have to say hey. It's not something I ever say too much. I'm just a posh boring.
I don't know how to respond to that.
Thank you, Siri. That was. I need to remove my HomePod from this room, clearly. Anyway, apologies for that interruption. So, I feel ridiculous saying hey. So I'm glad they're getting rid of that. I think that's going to be a bit better. Although I think the number of accidental triggers for your devices is gonna come up quite a lot. So hopefully, Siri becomes a bit more intelligent in recognizing when you're not trying to summon them for their assistance. Here's one I like: AirDrop over the internet. So if you're airdropping to someone or to yourself, between different devices, those devices become separated by too much. AirDrop won't cancel. It will continue, or just use your internet connection to continue sending that file or whatever you're sending over. So I think that's really useful. And then here's a nerdy one. This is not going to be exciting for many people at all. But if you use reminders, as I do, for shopping lists, as I do, apparently it's going to automatically categorize and group your items together. I like that. If we're talking about a quality of life upgrade, that's it for me, right? That's the most exciting one right there. Right. So that is my summary of iPadOS 17. I haven't installed it yet because, as I say, I only have one iPad. I'm really tempted because I'm hearing the developer versions are quite stable. In July, they're releasing the public beta versions. I'm quite tempted to go for it. In fact, what I might do is install the public beta version on this iPad, and I might do a live stream where I just test it and see what it's like. That could go horribly wrong. If that's something you're interested in, let me know in the comments below. So that's it. That's my reaction to iPadOS 17. I think there's some solid things here, interesting, nothing groundbreaking, nothing massively whoa exciting, but I think it's decent. It's a nice step up. Pretty happy with that. Looking forward to trying it out. And I'm sure there's a whole bunch of other features that are coming that was going to be discovered as well. If you're trying out iPadOS 17 already, let me know what you think in the comments. Should I take the leap when the public beta comes out and do it? Let me know in the comments. Of course, if you want any questions, any comments, likes, comments, subscribes, all welcome. Please get involved. If you want to leave a donation, you can head over to buymeacoffee.com/buzzkill to leave a small donation. And if you want to get any Buzzkill merch, because I've got some cool merch. It's so cool, I don't actually own any of it. I'm going to start buying something. But you can get t-shirts, water bottles, probably cushions or bags or something like that with the Buzzkill branding on. Head over to buzzkill.shop to get all of your goodies. That's the end of this episode. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll be back next week with another episode of Everything iPad. Goodbye.